Guys, welcome once again to another episode of Scott Talks Law. So in this episode, we'll be talking about maritime law, and we're going to talk about the history of the law of the sea. So maritime law is the law that governs the water bodies, the seas, the oceans, the rivers. So we're going to talk about the history of the law of the sea, the law that governs the sea. So this law of the sea developed in three distinct periods. There are three periods of this law of the sea, or the development of this law of the sea. So we had the first period that ranges within 14th to 15th century. We've got the second period that is from 15th century to 19th century, and that is the age of discovery. During that period, there a lot of discoveries were made, and the last period is the one that ranges from 19th century to the current century, or the present period, the 20th century. So before we talk about this history of the law of the sea, we need first of all to know how the continent looks like. You just have that rough image of the continent. The North America is up there, South America is up there, you've got Africa around at the center somewhere there, you've got Asia and Europe neighboring each other, you've got New Zealand and Australia down there. So let us draw the map of the world, so how the world looks like. So roughly, this is how the world is like, something like that, I guess. Yeah. So let's say that this is Africa. Let me draw something big. So this is Africa, and yeah, I think something like that. Yeah. So, and this is North America. People from America, look at how North America is, and somehow like Africa, some similarities. So this is North America, and this is South America. South America, North America, South America, Africa. Can you see it? Yeah, and let's say that this is Europe and Asia. Europe, Asia, Asia there, Europe, Africa, South America, North America. Can you see it? Yeah, and this is Australia, and let's say this is New Zealand. So yeah, I think you can see it clearly, and yeah. So during the 14th to 15th century, the earliest period of the development of the law of the seas, we had two superpowers, or two countries that were superpowers at that time, and that was Spain and Portugal. So Spain and Portugal, they wanted to demarcate the continent, and they had to enter into an agreement on how to demarcate the continent. So this agreement was referred to as the Papal Bull of Demarcation, and it was overseen by Pope Alexander the Sixth. So papal pope, there's some similarities there, kinda. So that agreement was referred to as Papal Bull of Demarcation, and as you can see, this is how it was divided. So let's say this is the continent, and Papal Bull of Demarcation, this is how it was suggesting. So like the continent should be subdivided in such a way that like this. So this side was to be occupied by Portugal. This side was to be occupied by Portugal according to the Papal Bull of Demarcation. Whereas the other side was to be occupied by Spain. But sometimes like that. So this is according to the Papal Bull of Demarcation. So Portugal went back and thought about it and said like, we are not satisfied with this Papal Bull of Demarcation, and we cannot just, we are superpowers, like come on, we are Portugal, you know. That time they were superpowers. So they disagreed with the Papal Bull of Demarcation, and they wanted like to go to like have some more territory, and they wanted to like cut in a bit of some part of North America there. So they disagreed with that Papal Bull of Demarcation. So there is another agreement that was entered by it was referred to as the Treaty of Tordesillas, no? And this was the second demarcation following Portugal dissatisfaction with the Papal Bull of Demarcation. So this is how it looked like, the Treaty of Tordesillas. So they wanted like they were dissatisfied with that Papal Bull of Demarcation, and this is the second demarcation. It went like, and they took part of some of North America there into its territory, the territory of Portugal. So Portugal occupied some parts of North America, and this is where nations like Brazil is. So Brazil is within parts of North America. That's why you find that there are some Brazilians who speak Portuguese or Portugal language. So like the Portuguese or Portugal took over all this area, you know. So that all of that area went to Portugal, and the rest of the area went to Spain. That's following the second demarcation. Second demarcation, which is referred to as Treaty of Tordesillas, that was entered into in 1494, and it was sanctioned by Pope Julius II. So that is the first period that ranges between 14th century to 15th century. And during that time there was navigation, and there was Aristotle was that instrument that was used to predict the distance of the sun, moon, and the stars. So the second phase, or the second period, is the period between 15th century to 19th century. I think here that's the second period. But before we look at the second period, we used to have like the people wanted to discover the sea route to India, and we had 3 people. They were trying to find out where they can get the sea route to India, the easiest way, the easiest ways to reach India without using land, by the sea. So you had 3 people. So So we had got these three people. We had Bartholomew Diaz, we had Christopher Columbus, and we had Vasco da Gama. So Bartholomew Diaz, in his efforts to discovering the sea route to India, he came from Europe, and he moved through the sea to the Cape of Good Hope here around South Africa. And during his travel, he used to experience a lot of voyages, and when he just discovered Cape of Good Hope, Cape Town, he just called it the Cape of Good Hope because it kind of gave him some hope that we've traveled a long way, all these voyages, we could have died, and just referred that place as Cape of Good Hope because there was hope. So he didn't discover the sea route to India, just stopped at the Cape of Good Hope, Cape Town. But he had this other guy known as Vasco da Gama, went through, just followed the footsteps of Bartholomew Diaz. He reached Cape Town, and then he advanced to India. He's the only person who discovered the sea route to India. So when he was traveling, he stopped at a place called Malindi within Kenya, and he established his pillar known as Vasco da Gama pillar. So there's this other guy who was referred to as Christopher Columbus. So Christopher Columbus, he didn't use the same route that was used by Vasco da Gama and Bartholomew Diaz. And this guy is just funny. How do you go to, like, he attempted to discover the sea route to India, but he just went towards North America. So like I said, there are three people who attempted to discover the sea route to India, and these were Bartholomew Diaz, Christopher Columbus, and Vasco da Gama. So Vasco da Gama was successful in his attempt to discover the sea route to India, proceeded to India after he had established the Vasco da Gama pillar at Malindi. Bartholomew Diaz was the first one to attempt, but he didn't. He stopped at Cape Town because he was almost dying. He decided to name that place within Cape Town, South Africa, the Cape of Good Hope. The journey wasn't that easy, so Vasco da Gama just followed his footsteps and was successful. And Christopher Columbus, who I consider the funniest, he went towards North America, the direction of North America. Actually, he didn't succeed to discover the sea route to India, but he succeeded in discovering that actually there's a continent that is called North America, and that continent is rich of gold and luxury. So this is the rough map of the world, or the continent. So it's coming from Europe, Christopher Columbus. So this is where it's coming from Europe, going towards North America through the sea. So like, I don't really know how this guy what he was thinking, what was in his mind. And his intention was to go to India, and he was just heading towards North America. So he went to North America, discovered that North America exists, and that is him. That's why you study him. So the rest went towards, we have Bartholomew Diaz. He reached at Cape Town. Here is where Cape Town is, South Africa. There is named it Cape of Good Hope. And then Vasco da Gama went until he reached India. So that is during the period between 14th to 15th century, the first period of evolution of the law of the sea. So you just have to learn about these discoveries within that period and the attempts in discovering some seals to India. Like these people, like this during this period, like people were so curious. They wanted to discover everything, and I just don't know what. Like they wanted to discover many things. They wanted to discover. They wanted to use the sea, and like just their mind was just full of discoveries. And yeah, so the second period, or the second phase, the phase that ranges between 15th century to 19th century. And during this period is where you find Hugo Grotius, the father of international law. And Hugo Grotius wrote a paper, and in his paper he was suggesting that nobody owns the sea. This paper was named The Freedom of the Sea. So in his paper he was suggesting that the sea does not belong to anyone. The sea is no one's territory. And actually everyone has the right to the sea. Everyone has the right to use the sea, has the right to go through the sea, and it actually doesn't belong to anyone. So we also had there's this guy who criticized Hugo Grotius, and like, how can you criticize Hugo Grotius? This is the father of international law, and you just wanna criticize him and with your own. It's called John Selden, between 1584 and 1654. So John Selden was suggesting that Britain has some authority towards the sea, especially areas where are around the sea. But he did not succeed. They ignored his suggestions, his writings, because more emphasis was placed towards Grotius' view that there should be freedom towards the sea. Yeah. So the treaty by John Selden was referred to as Mare Clausum. Mare Clausum. So the second phase is during 1529. This is when the world was shown to be round. The world was shown to be round by the treaty known as the Treaty of Saragossa. So this Treaty of Saragossa is the treaty that was suggesting that the world is actually round, though some geographers won't agree with that, but just have to understand that this is not geography, this is maritime law, and we must consider that Treaty of Saragossa. So actually that is the history. Just need to know about those three phases. The phase between 14th to 15th century, the first phase between 15th to 19th century, the second phase of discoveries, the third and the final phase between 15th to 19th century, between 19th to the current 20th century. And just have to know them, because it will help you to learn. You also have to know about these people who attempted to discover the sea to India, the likes of Vasco da Gama, the likes of Christopher, the likes of Diaz, the likes of Christopher Nimbus, and yeah. So guys, that's the end. And come on guys, you're gonna do this.